You know, one of the things I thought was very kind of groundbreaking was when Ted Lieu introduced a bill in February to require a psychiatrist in the White House. And I think that was pretty clear that it was a swipe at Donald Trump, but it's also kind of like, hey, I think that we treat psychiatry in this country as sort of a taboo thing, and if you do go see a psychiatrist, that means that you're broken. And
we're supposed to not be as much anymore, though, and it's supposed to be a disease.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Just like substance
but
abuse.
It still absolutely has that.
Oh yeah,
taboo
there's still a
stigma.
stigma.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's, but you know, this is an important thing. This idea of not just diagnosing people you don't know and aren't treating.
Right.
You know, I remember in the Terry Schiavo thing all those years ago, where Bill Frist, who was the majority leader of the Senate at the time, who was a doctor, tried to diagnose her via video, and it was insane and ridiculous. And I oppose that. But this is something that, almost on an elemental level, when you listen to him talk, when you watch him go about his business, you feel something's wrong. And I think that's what a lot of people are reacting to.
Right.
Now.
And when you feel something's wrong or someone else feels something wrong, with all due respect to you, I don't know your medical credentials, but I assume
Zero.
there's okay. Zero. But when you see something's wrong, but a psychiatrist, even if she is liberal, tells me she sees something wrong and that she works with people with narcissistic personality disorder and knows about how that can lead to violence.
Right.
And then when the former director of national intelligence says in a quote unquote fit of pique, that he's worried that Trump will use the nuclear codes. Yeah. That's when it becomes a story in USA Today's mind. This has been percolating for quite a while, but I did something, if I could just quickly mention.
Sure. This
is my third Trump health story. The first one was on sleep deprivation. And you get criticized, too, because the people didn't, well, they certainly didn't sleep with him, but they didn't analyze, they hadn't examined him.
Right.
But they were talking about how he has talked about getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and there was a pattern, and there's the tweeting, and then you have his claiming to not exercise or believing in exercise and all of that. Yeah, so you have all of these things. It does worry people when North Korea comes up and these kinds of things.
Well, in your reporting, you mentioned narcissism. Is there sort of an undercurrent of one or two diagnoses that people keep kind of positing?
Yeah, and it is narcissistic personality disorder, which is why. So there's narcissism, and I think here, just blocks from the Capitol, I think
we got lots of it here in town, Jayne. I'm sure we are not short
not
on
in this
that.
studio.
No, never in here.
No,
Not at all. But surrounding us, yes.
Comparatively speaking, I think it's probably lower. But it becomes in whether it's Wall Street or boardrooms anywhere, you're going to see a fair amount of narcissism, and it's probably necessary to succeed. And that's one of the things I said to this Dr. Bandy Lee, the psychiatrist from Yale, when she first started describing to me the things that worried her about Donald Trump, I said, but I've covered Washington since the 80s. That sounds like every politician I've ever known. And I said, what if I told you that described my husband? And the line that always stuck with me, it does not, by the way, but he actually needs a little more.
If you're listening,
yes, it's okay.
I wish he was a little more of a self-promoter, but given the options, I'll take what I got.
No, I really hope he's not listening.
I'll send him the link. But the thing that struck with me is that she said, if you had a house full of guns and you described your husband that way, I would feel I had a duty to act, to warn you about that. And this is what she uses. What you can argue, we can argue about it, and many people, including top people at the American Psychiatric Association, disagree with it. But that's why she and her colleagues want to warn.
It was really interesting to me that during the election, there were a handful of Republicans that came out and endorsed Hillary Clinton. And a lot of them, especially the military types, former generals and stuff, that came out and endorsed Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. And they said, for us, it's very simple. Access to nuclear war, access to the nuclear codes, whether it's a mental illness or whether it's just his knee-jerk, fiery reaction to any small thing that comes his way, he could launch us into nuclear war in a matter of minutes.
Yep.
And there are no safeguards here.
Nope. Not at all. That's part of the problem, too.
And
That's also screwed up.
And when James Clapper, who did work in the George W. Bush administration as well, when he said that, that's when we decided to write this. I've been working on this story off and on for a couple months, and when he said that, and he's close friends and worked a long time with Jim Mattis, our defense secretary, when he's worried, I think a lot of other people are worried.
Yeah.